gentlemen, let us rise to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor of Fountain University. Please, shall we rise to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor of Fountain University and that of the Convocation Lecturer. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let us rise to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor moving into this very own. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let us rise and be on our feet to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor filing into this very own. Thank you very much, as we also use this opportunity to please settle down for us to officially commence the event. We thank you most sincerely for identifying with us here at Fountain University to have this 15th convocation lecture of the university. We thank you most sincerely, ladies and gentlemen, for traveling far and wide to celebrate with Fountain University and of course listen to the very thought-provoking lecture that is going to be delivered by our distinguished convocation lecturer. Ladies, gentlemen, very distinguished guests, thank you most sincerely for joining us today to listen to this 15th convocation lecture of Fountain University. The moment the procession of the Vice Chancellor settles, we will commence the program with anthems, that of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that of Osun State, and that of Fountain University. Once again, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing the procession of the Vice Chancellor of Fountain University, which officially signifies the commencement of the event. We thank you most sincerely for joining us today. May Allah reward you abundantly. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the procession settles, we will be taking the anthems, that of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that of Osun State, and that of Fountain University. Most sincerely, we thank you, we appreciate you for the time and commitment. We know there are popular things you could have chosen to do at this point, and we sincerely thank you for choosing to be with us here at Fountain University. Ladies, gentlemen, distinguished guests, once the procession settles, we will start with the anthem, that of Federal Republic of Nigeria, followed by that of Osun State, and finally with that of Fountain University. Once again, we thank you most sincerely for your attention and time that you've decided to come spend with us here today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria, we hail thee, our only native land. Though tried and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigeria. FCIB. Your presence at this gathering, it is a testament to your unwavering dedication to ethical leadership and institutional excellence. I acknowledge our esteemed proprietor, the Nursery University Society worldwide, its leadership, national and zonal executives and members for their unwavering vision and steadfast support, and particularly the Chairman of Board of Trustees of NASFAT, Alhaji Dr. Wale Olashupo, the President, Alhaji Ayodeji Abdulwahid Abdulrauf. The former President is also recognized, Brother, I won't put Alhaji here, Brother Niyi Yusuf. The Chief Missioner, Imam Engineer Abdulaziz Onike, the past and present National Women Affairs Secretaries, and all members of NASFAT, all stakeholders. I most sincerely appreciate here our Chairman of Board of Trustees, Professor Yusuf Olaolu Ali SCA, our Pro-Chancellor and the Chairman of Governing Council, Dr. Awad Ibrahim FCA, and all members of both the Board of Trustees and Governing Council for their guidance and oversight. I warmly welcome and recognize our royal and spiritual fathers that are here, the former principal officers of the university, the vice chancellors, representatives of sister university, government officials, and especially recognize the DSS, and all distinguished guests, both physical and virtual, whose presence honors this occasion. I'm equally grateful to my dear mom, Alhaja Titilayo Adebayo Karim,
my dear husband, Professor Adegboyega Karim, and my family for their presence and support always. Finally, I commend the management, the staff, and students of Fountain University for their dedication and collective efforts. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Fountain University remains a beacon of academic excellence and moral integrity, guided by the principles of Islam. Beyond awarding degrees, we are committed to developing leaders of purpose, responsibility, and the themes of today's lecture underscores the vital role of faith-based institutions in promoting ethical leadership and national development. And I'm confident that our distinguished convocation lecturer will offer invaluable insights towards this end. Distinguished guests, once again, this convocation lecture is one of the highlights of our 15th convocation celebrations. The week began with a press briefing, followed by sporting events showcasing talent and teamwork between the staff and students. On Thursday, we held the Entrepreneurship, Research and Innovation Program, which highlighted student creativity, particularly in the halal economy. On Sunday, we held the third Walimat Quran with a lecture by the Chief Imam of Ogbosho, Sheikh Dr. Teliat Yunus Olushino Ayelara. Yesterday, the Merit Award ceremony honored the exceptional contributions of staff, students, alumni, and friends of the university. And inshallah, tomorrow, the grand convocation ceremony will culminate these celebrations with the conferment of degrees as our graduates, the true ambassadors of Fountain University, embark on the next phase of their journey. And following this lecture, we shall proceed to commission several projects executed during this session. I'm pleased to report here that the university has recorded remarkable progress in infrastructural development this session, with over 2.7 billion naira invested in capital projects in strict alignment with our master plan and strategic growth objective. And these include donor-funded landmark projects such as the university main gate, which many of you have seen as a giant edifice beautifying the university. The gatehouse by no one else, Malam Professor Yusuf Olaolu Ali, SAS, the chairman of our board of trustees. A 600-seater ultra-modern auditorium, this place where we are now, donated by Vice Admiral, retired Jubrila Ayela, GCOL. A 180-bed main hostel, donated by our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Awa Ibrahim, FCU. A 500-meter internal road network, donated by the Fountain University's Patron Club. 2 central kitchens, donated by the Parents Forum. And a 50-seater pavilion by Mr. David Delucia of the United States of America. He's a friend to our former president of NASFAT, Brother Niyi Yusuf. I wanted to say Alaji and I quickly cautioned myself. Donated by a friend to Brother Niyi Yusuf, the former president of NASFAT. Complementing these efforts, the university, through its internally generated revenue, delivered a 180-bed female hostel, a 400-meter dual carriage access road, and under construction, a state-of-the-art medical laboratory science complex. Tekbir, Alhamdulillah. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to round up this address, as we celebrate our achievements and look to the future, Fountain University remains committed to advancing knowledge, nurturing character, and serving humanity with distinction. Guided by faith and strengthened by partnership and innovation, We will continue to uphold our ideals, which responding boldly to global demands. I therefore invite all stakeholders and all friends to the university to remain united with us in building an institution that produces ethical leaders and globally competitive graduates. May Allah guide us and reward our collective effort. Thank you, and you are sincerely and warmly welcome to this 15th Convocation lecture. Thank you. Fountain.
So we must all be engaged in productive enterprise. And that is the admonition from the Quran. Our faith, therefore, is not an obstacle to prosperity. It is its moral engine and a strategic compass. Islam never separated spirituality from productivity. If you look at the previous verse I referenced, worship is always or was always meant to translate into welfare of the Ummah, ethics into enterprise, belief into benefit for the society. But let's look at where we found ourselves today. We must tell each other the hard and difficult truth. The global Muslim community of approximately 2 billion people were blessed with talent, natural resources, and history, but we remain economically underpowered. We are prominent consumers, but we are very limited owners. We are active participants, but very marginal controllers of capital, innovation, and the strategic industry that defines power equation. This imbalance, in my view, is not just cosmetic. It is an existential risk. A community that does not produce, a community that does not innovate, a community that does not own the means of production eventually loses its voice, its dignity, and its agency. This reality, in my view, should trouble the leadership of the community. Not because we're envious of others, but because economic weakness undermines moral agency. Dependence compromises autonomy. Poverty weakens institutions. Under ownership of means of production limits our influence in the society. It has not always been so. And I don't want us to be nostalgic about our history, but our history should serve as a blueprint of what is possible. Islamic civilization once led the world in commerce, finance, sciences, and innovation. Risk-sharing finance, multinational trade networks, letters of credit, and state-funded research institutions flourished under Muslim leadership. Our decline did not begin with external forces alone. It began when we fractured knowledge, separating faith from worldly competence, treating economics, sciences, and enterprise as spiritually secondary rather than civilizationally essential. I repeat, in my view, our decline is not just about external forces alone. It began when we fractured knowledge, separating faith from worldly competence, treating sciences, economics, finance, and enterprise as spiritually secondary rather than civilizationally essential. And the Quran rejects such a separation. In Surah Al-Qasas, Allah instructs, seek through what Allah has given you, the home of the hereafter, but do not forget your share of the world. Which means, so this verse is not a concession to material life. It is a divinely balanced strategy. Ahira as the objective, and dunya as the instrument to get to the objective. In my view, where did the chain broke? I identified 3 gaps. First, what I call leadership gap, where the moral authority, the convening authority in Islam, has not been matched with economic stewardship. Second, what I call educational disconnect, where spiritual formation and professional competence were allowed to run on parallel courses. Third is what I call innovation deficit, where risk aversion, i.e. running away from taking risk, was mistaken for righteousness. Islam never promoted withdrawal from the world. It demanded that we act responsibly within that world. Let me cascade this down to our situation in Nigeria. Globally, and just as is applicable in Nigeria today, economic power resides in certain sectors: finance, telecommunication, energy, infrastructure, technology, manufacturing. Our participation in these sectors remain largely inconsequential. And even that inconsequential level is mainly at managerial level, rather than at the proprietary, or what I call the ownership level. And ownership matters, because ownership determines direction, resilience, and influence. Without ownership, communities remain structurally vulnerable. No matter how talented or how numerous we are, for as long as we do not control the level of economy, we remain vulnerable. And the future is arriving very fast. The next wave of wealth will not be driven by oil alone, but by data, digital platforms, advanced finance, biotechnology, including very advanced technology such as artificial intelligence, machine learning. Communities that are absent from these frontiers, they risk what I call permanent marginalization. This is not a future challenge. It is a present warning to the community, our community, to rise up and be strategic in our engagement with the modern economic system. What is the cause of our under-contribution? Apologies, I have hope. Under-ownership produces what I call under-contribution to GDP, exports, innovation, and most importantly, national and international influence. Economic weaknesses inevitably translate into what I call political and social marginalization. No community, I repeat, no community can negotiate from a position of economic weakness. None. How do we confront this going forward? There's this principle of muhasabah, that's accountability. And the Quran reminds us that Allah does not change the condition of a community or a people until they change what is within themselves. This call for honest self-auditing, not blame shifting, not historical lamentation, but courageous introspection among the leadership and the followership within our community. We must interrogate our mindset, our deployment of capital, and the seriousness of our collective ambition. I was actually planning to send this lecture note to Prof later. So coincidentally, seeing him here gives me an opportunity. Because the next section is what I call the mandate for Islamic leadership. The leadership needs to become architects, not just custodian of our historical values. The mandate of leadership today must evolve. It is no longer sufficient, in my view, to be custodians of Aqidah, which is extremely important, and all our rituals. The moment demands an architect of systems. Islamic leadership must therefore move decisively from preserving structures to building institutions. A good example is where we are today. We took the bull by the horn and we decided we needed to have a university. But do we have enough given our size? The answer is no. So we must move decisively from preserving structures to building institutions. From moral commentary to what I call economic coordination. From convening gatherings to mobilizing capital. Our mosques must remain in sacred spaces, but they must also become centers of ethical mobilization of resources. Conferences must evolve into platforms for strategic thinking and alignment. Sermons must inspire not just righteousness and piety, but productivity and responsibility. Safeguarding our Aqidah remains non-negotiable, but empowering it has become unavoidable at this point. A community that cannot empower